All right, welcome to Article of the Week number 3. This article is on a topic that I particularly like. It's the topic of Halloween, and the title of the article is Halloween, the Hidden History. So this article is going to be about the history of Halloween and why we celebrate it today. So you should have a paper copy of the article as you are taking Cornell Notes. If you have trouble reading the text off the screen from the Edpuzzle, use your paper copy so that you can write in your key details in your Cornell Notes so that you can see them maybe a little bit better than how it appears on your screen. Make sure your Cornell Notes are pulled up in another tab. Have that ready to go. You can split screen it with the Edpuzzle if you prefer to do it that way. That's fine too. All right, so let's just kind of have an overview of what the article looks like, and then we will go in and read the text. So you can see the title at the top. You can see how we have, it looks like a little introduction. It's set up very similarly to the first two articles, where there's a little paragraph introduction, and then it's broken into different headers. The headers are the Celtics, the Catholic Church, Coming to America, and Halloween Today. And I just want to point out to you, it's good just to kind of skim over the article before you read it so you know generally the direction that the article is going to go. It's also how your Cornell Notes are organized. Introduction, the Celtics, Catholic Church, Coming to America, and Halloween Today. You also will have to write an objective summary once we're finished with the whole article, and I'll review with you how to do that when it's time, okay? Going back to the article, I do want to point out the text features. We have a painting here, and I'll talk about it specifically when it's time. We have a photo here, and we have a bar graph here with some data. So we've got some statistics to pay attention to as well. All right, now it's time to read the article. We're going to start with the introduction, and then I will pause and we will go to the Cornell Notes and write down some key details, and then we'll come back and read the next section. Halloween, the Hidden History. The dark night howls a spooky tune. Children cackle like tickled hens, and hay-filled wagons rumble down the road. Boo! It is Halloween, a night when children behave like crazed animals looking for a treat. Jack-o'-lanterns greet visitors with a luminous smile or a frightening evil eye. Candy is spilling over bowls like a waterfall of heavenly treats. How does such a tradition begin? The Halloween tradition, celebrated each year on October 31st, has a story that began about 2,000 years ago. All right, we're going to pause there, and we're going to head on over to the Cornell Notes. And basically, the introduction gave a nice, vivid description. I saw lots of figurative language. I noticed alliteration. I noticed onomatopoeia. I noticed similes, metaphors, imagery, all sorts of beautiful description in the first few sentences. And it wasn't until the very last sentence that we have like a fact. So what I would do is I would start off with, in the notes, I would say a vivid description of Halloween. And vivid means very clear. It's something that you kind of see in your mind because of all that figurative language. I'm going to put figurative language just to remind myself there was a lot of figurative language in the introduction. And then the second thing is it began 2,000 years ago, and it's always celebrated on October 31st. So celebrated, Halloween is celebrated October 31st. Halloween began over 2,000 years ago. All right. That's basically what the introduction was. Vivid description. It's always celebrated on October 31st, and it began over 2,000 years ago. All right. If you would go ahead and make sure that you have that in your Cornell Notes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, don't forget your name and the title and author of this article. Make sure you add that to your notes as well. I'm going to pause the video, and we'll come back and read the next section together. All right, we're moving on to the next section is the Celtics. Long ago, there was a group of people who lived in what is now Ireland. They were called the Celts. They also lived in the United Kingdom and northern France. The Celts had a festival each year called Samhain. Okay, Samhain. It looks like Sam Hain, but if you look at the pronunciation, it says Samhain. This festival was celebrated from sunset on October 31st to sunset on November 1st. It marked the end of the harvest season. It also marked the end of summer when the warm sun would go to bed earlier in the beginning of the winter when death would scurry through the crops like the grim reaper. I'm going to read that sentence one more time. It also marked the end of summer when the warm sun would go to bed earlier and the beginning of the winter when death would scurry through the crops like the grim reaper. So it was the end of summer at the beginning of fall/winter. But notice the figurative language there. The Celtic people believed that the past and present intermingled at this time, and the spirits of the dead would come visit the living. To ward off these spirits, the Celts would dress up in frightening costumes and build massive bonfires. Treats of food and drink were set out to placate the spirits. Placate means to make them happy. If I were to placate you, I would give you maybe a Jolly Rancher or something to make you happy. So treats of food and drink were set out to placate the spirits. Many Celts would dress up to try to fool their neighbors into thinking they were visiting dead just to get these treats. That's very interesting. You can kind of see where dressing up came from. So the Celtics, we're going to go ahead and add some notes to our organizer. And I'm going to bring my cursor down, and I'm going to add my bullets here. That's how you get to the little bullets. You just click on that little icon there. And if you don't see it, you click on the ellipses, and it's right there. So the Celtics were a group of people that lived long ago in Ireland. How about we start there? Group who lived in Ireland long ago. And they also came up with this festival called Samhain. So they celebrated Samhain on October 31st to November 1st. How about that? They celebrated, I've got to check the spelling on that, Samhain. October, I'm going to abbreviate, 31st. And I'm going to just mention that it marked the end of harvest. And it marked the end of the harvest season. I'll just put the harvest. Okay. All right. And then what they did during this festival is they would put food and drink out to scare away, or I'm sorry, not to scare away, actually to placate the spirits. because they believed that the past and the present intermingled at this time, that the spirits of the dead would come visit the living. To ward off the spirits, they would dress up in costumes, build bonfires, and they would leave treats of food and drink out. So what I'm doing is, I'm just so that you know what I'm thinking, I'm kind of taking all these details and summarizing them into one bullet point, so we don't have to write as much. So to make the spirits happy, instead of placate, I'm going to use the word happy. They dressed up, burned fires, and left out food and drink. I think that's enough information. That pretty much explains who they were, and then their original festival kind of set the traditions for our Halloween, with dressing up and food and drink, which kind of turns into candy for us. So let's go back to the next section, the Catholic Church. I'm going to pause the video, make sure that you have your notes in for the Celtics. All right, now we're going to move on to the Catholic Church. In AD 837, Pope Gregory designated November 1st as All Saints' Day in Rome and throughout Europe. The Holy Day, or Hallowed Day, was a day to honor all of the saints and their relics. Relics are like objects that people would worship to, like the Christian cross, for example, that represented the saints. That's all a relic is. November 2nd would later be established by the Catholic Church as All Souls Day, a day to remember all the faithful departed souls. Some believe that the Catholic Church may have been attempting to replace the Celtic festival. This holy day could commemorate the dead in a more Christian manner. In fact, All Souls Day was celebrated in a similar way to Samhain long ago. The faithful Christians had bonfires as big as the sky and parades that danced through the streets. They dressed up as angels, saints, and devils. They called this holy day All Hallows Day, from the English, excuse me, I do not know how to pronounce this word. I'll do my very best. All Hallow Mess, I believe. That meant All Saints' Day. The night before became known as All Hallows Eve. So you can kind of see where the name of Halloween is kind of coming from in this section. So for this section, for the Catholic Church, I would like you to add your own details in this section. I'm going to go ahead and get my bullet in there. So I'm going to pause the video. You go back to this section, and I want you to write 2 to 3 bullet points that of information that you learned from this section of the article. I'm going to pause the video so that you can add your details now. All right. Now we're going to go back to the next section. It's called Coming to America. Once the Europeans began to settle in the New World, they began sharing many of their cultures and beliefs with the Native Americans. The cultures mixed together like a giant bowl of soup. The first celebrations of Halloween were events meant to celebrate the end of the harvest. Colonists would share stories of the dead, dance, and even tell each other's fortunes. As time went on, these celebrations grew in popularity. Large festivals were held, and ghost stories would be told. Eventually, as more and more immigrants came to America, Halloween was celebrated all over the country. Just as the Irish and English had done thousands of years before, Americans of all ages would dress up and thump on doors asking for treats. By the late 1800s, Halloween had become more like the celebration we know today, although less grotesque. Grotesque meaning like scary or kind of um, scary, basically. Along with it, however, many would cause lots of mischief by playing tricks on others, which is kind of where trick or treat came from, the phrase trick or treat. We normally just get our treats when we knock on doors, but sometimes people would play tricks on each other. So you can look at the image above this section. A home in Pennsylvania is decorated for Halloween. That looks like something that you would see today. So that's a modern day home. And if you look over here at this chart, this chart actually talks about how people will celebrate Halloween, and based on a poll. So 7% said they would host a party, 18% said they would attend someone else's party, 16% said they would attend a public celebration like a parade or a fair, 27% said they would chaperone trick-or-treaters. They would actually go out door to door and go trick-or-treating. 41% said they would stay home and hand out candy. And then 34% said they don't celebrate Halloween. So some people don't celebrate Halloween, and that's okay. Not a problem. So I would like you to take the information from this section, Coming to America. You can use the chart here. You can use the picture. These are all text features. And you can use the actual text to add your facts to this section in your Cornell Notes. Go ahead and add 2 to 3 details for Coming to America. I'm going to pause the video so you can do that, and we'll finish out the article. All right, the last section, Halloween today. By the 1950s, Halloween had evolved into a secular, which means non-religious, holiday for children. The large parties of the past are now neighborhood parties, and families give out candy to avoid getting tricked. Many neighborhoods today still have bonfires and hay rides, and many enjoy dressing up. Today's costumes can scare you into next week or make you laugh like a clown. Dressing up for Halloween is becoming more popular each year with children and adults. It's such a popular holiday that it has become the second largest holiday for stores, right behind Christmas. Each year, Americans spend about $9 billion on Halloween costumes, decorations, and candy. Trick or treat. All right, I want you to go to your notes and go to the Halloween Today section in your Cornell Notes and add 2 to 3 details from that section. And I'm going to pause the video so that you can do that, and then we will write our objective summary. All right, now you have notes for the entire article. And the last thing I want you to do is to write an objective summary. You learned how to do that with the last article of the week. And there's basically you are going to write a topic sentence and then 3 key supporting details that kind of summarize this article as a whole. Okay, you're not summarizing a section. You're going to summarize the entire article. If you forgot how to write an objective summary, use the anchor charts on the whiteboard. They're up there for you to use. You're going to write your topic sentence. You're going to name it. Remember, that's the title of the article. You're going to verb it. You can use any verb that's on the chart that works for this article. And then you're going to write the central idea. Remember, the central idea is what the article is as a whole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and write my topic sentence. You can use mine if you want to, or you can write your own. So the title of this article is Halloween, the Hidden History. And I'm going to say explains, because I think this article explains. The central idea is the history of Halloween. Halloween, the Hidden History, explains the history of Halloween. It sounds kind of funny because it's kind of repeating the title, but that's exactly what this article does. Now, what you need to do is I want you to type in 3 key supporting details that support this topic sentence, that this article explains the history of Halloween. And after you've done that, you are finished with your Cornell Notes, and you're going to turn this in. Don't forget, after you turn it in, you're going to be taking the little comprehension check. This should be super easy because you will have read this article very carefully by taking these Cornell Notes. So go ahead and turn in your Cornell Notes, answer the questions, and you are done with your assignment for today.